season 2. Didn't even know we did seasons for the show, but we're doing seasons now. Right, Anna?
Yeah, season 2 of Your Therapist's Playlist.
Yes, I'm Matt.
And I'm Anna.
And we took a very long break that wasn't planned at all. But I think that it was something that I can't speak for Anna, but I know I needed. Summer, everybody needs a summer break. And I claimed that. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, it was our summer break. It was my honeymoon vacation. So needed a little time off. It was semi-planned, not too planned. But,
what do you mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like the idea of taking a honeymoon was there, but the exact date wasn't set until like, I don't know, a month ago or something. Oh. So, but I'm glad to be back. Glad to be recording again.
Yeah, it's been a minute since we've really uploaded or recorded anything. Apologies to the listeners who maybe felt abandoned by us not really putting out any content. I know that it wasn't planned as far as a break goes, but I hope that you are all forgiving and having a great deal of psychological flexibility to realize that even therapists who like music need breaks too.
Yeah, exactly. And as a therapist, you know, self-care is important. Avoiding burnout.
There's a small population within our field who get annoyed by the phrase self-care, which I get, but at the same time too, I can't think of anything else that's better other than, oh yeah, I'm going to take a break. But self-care sounds more fancy. So I like to use that too to make myself sound special.
So you do like the word self-care then?
Yeah.
I don't think I have any feelings towards it.
Yeah.
I guess I could see it being like kind of, I don't know, like maybe overused.
Yeah. Like I'm ambivalent as well. Like it doesn't bother me that much. But when people mention like, oh, I'm so tired of hearing about it, I'm like, yeah, I get it. Because I feel like people, when they talk about it, they don't really know exactly what self-care entails. It's not just something that's fun. You are also being productive and sometimes paying bills, doing things you don't want to do. That's
setting boundaries.
Yes.
Self-care boundaries.
Oh, Lord.
And the first thing I think of when I hear the word self-care is Mac Miller, the song.
Rest in peace.
Yes. Sorry, Mac.
Is that song, the instrumental sounds very somber. So is that song happy or not?
I mean, I think it has like a positive. It's a positive, but then it's like sad because of what happened.
Composed.
Yes.
All right. Well, since it's been so long, how about we just catch the listeners up with how our summer's been? I'm going to start with you, Anna.
Summer's been good so far. Big thing was Ireland. So I did post from there. I posted a video of an artist that we saw in Galway. So, and we're hoping to do an interview with him as soon as we can, maybe next month, to learn a little bit more about the music scene in Galway and Ireland in general, with all the pubs being closed. It's got to be pretty hard on the artists, I would think, because I think that was kind of like their main venue.
Yeah.
But it was fun. How's your summer going, Matt?
Summer's been pretty good. I transitioned into my full-time job at the private practice I'm at. Work has been very interesting in a good way, both when it comes to cases I'm working with, but also just, I think, experience I'm bringing to it. When it comes to personally, things have been going pretty good this summer. Just been kind of hanging out with my 2 kittens here, having shenanigans happen with them as, you know, pet parents will understand. Got a chance to, of course, hang with like family, friends here and there, getting back into a good workout regimen, which I'm very, very happy with. And honestly, just been taking things one day at a time, not really trying to do too much, just because, I mean, I'm in my 30s. I got to live it up now.
Yeah, because we're getting pretty close to the end here, Matt, in 30s.
Oh, yeah. See, I mean, Jay's out, 30's the new 20, but that, you know, that kind of subsided. So now 30's back to being 30. And one thing I can say I've noticed on social media is that people are making turning 30 into the most dire situation. Like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm 30. And it's just like 30 for me was pretty decent outside of a few hiccups. I don't have any complaints thus far.
Yeah, I don't really remember 30 that much, which I think is when my wedding was. So I probably should have a better memory. But but I didn't get married when I was 30. So I don't know. I don't know. I'll give myself a break. But I don't remember it being like, oh, horrible. The world didn't end when I turned 30. And honestly, I forget how old I am now. I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna ask, how old are you?
31.
Okay, me too. I think I'm older, right? Yeah.
You're older like by like a few months or something, right?
The way you like talked about how you got married at 30, I'm like, I feel like you've been with your husband longer. Well, you've been with your husband for a while, but I keep thinking that the marriage is longer because I've just known that the two of you have been together for a long time. So it's just
Well, the marriage is longer. The marriage is because our anniversary is not this weekend, but next weekend.
Mm.
What we're counting as our anniversary, we're counting our anniversary date is the date we got married in the church.
Okay.
The date,
Okay.
but years wise, it's our second anniversary. It's been 2 years.
Okay, so I'm not crazy. I'm not.
No. You're like, yeah, it's just super confusing. But yeah, no, we've been married for 2 years. So
Yeah.
Good times.
Okay.
But yeah, being 30 isn't that bad. I don't know what it is.
Maybe it's just a transitional thing. Maybe it's something that we can create as a new theory to kind of, talk about and put into writings or written works what it means to enter a transitional period at the age of 30. It's such a big deal now, I guess now.
I just flew by me. Yeah. Flew by. And it didn't feel like a transition. I still got confused for a high schooler this week. So,
That happened to me too this summer. Not like confused as a high schooler, but I did get my ID checked. I don't feel like offended by this, but this isn't a compliment either. No, it was clients. That's what it was. Clients thought that I was like 22 as a therapist. I'm like, what kind of, what therapist is 22 years old? They have no life experience or ability to really do anything with their work.
Well, they would have just gotten out of grad school and technically they were like not fully licensed yet. But I don't know. I keep getting like, well, since I'm interning, people think that I'm just out of grad school. And I'm like, oh, no. This is the second master's. It's been a while. Like I graduated. Oh, Matt, no. Okay, so one of the counselors at the school I'm interning at, we were in class together. So we've had classes together for this master's program that I'm in right now. And anyway, he's like he went to the high school that he's working at now that I'm interning at, and I was like, oh, what year did you graduate? And he's like, oh, 2014. And I was like, okay, yeah, when you graduated from high school, I graduated from graduate school the first time. My master's. That's horrible.
Like, how did he respond?
He thought it was super funny, and he's like, I can't believe you graduated back then. This is your second master's. What? And I'm like, yeah, I can't believe that you were in high school.
Yeah.
Then.
Yeah, it is interesting taking classes after you've gone as far as your master's. When I went back to start classes for that substance use certification, it was just like, oh yeah, I remember being in classes just wanting to sit and not participate or give answers. Now I work in the field. I have the answers. I kind of feel obligated, like I have to say something or raise my hand and contribute because the answers are now easy. And then it's just like, oh my God, you know so much. It's like, no, I don't. I just work in the field. I was like you too, whippersnapper, back in my day.
Yes. That is exactly how it is. I'm always participating in class, and then sometimes I just want to hear what the teacher has to say.
Yeah. And then it's awkward too when the teacher keeps calling on you because you're the adult learner, but you also have the experience. Like, oh yeah, tell us this and tell us that. And it's like, maybe I don't want to.
Yeah, maybe I don't want to. Maybe I don't want to participate. Maybe I just want to sit here. But Matt, talking about all of the nostalgic things, school.
Yes.
We can transition to our topics a little bit. So, Matt, what was the type of music that you used to listen to in, let's say, middle school and elementary school?
Same. Well, elementary school was different. I didn't really get into adult music until I think 6th grade, and it was mostly because, peer pressure. So when I was in like 5th and under, it was like, children's shit. So obviously Disney musical songs, Chipmunks, because I never understood, like, how could they sing like that? Not realizing that they just increased the pitch. At 6th grade and onward, strictly hip hop, rap, and nothing having to do with rock until like high school. So that was really it. What about you?
Say elementary school. Actually, we started really young. I mean, it was a lot of Selena.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. if that's just all Mexican children with Selena, and then country because where I was living. But then I will always remember this day. My older brother, he told me, "Oh, there's a new radio station in town." Because where I live, it's just oldies and country, and like there's what do they say? Like there's two kinds of country. There's two kinds of music. We have country and western. That's pretty much what it's like in Ottawa. So there's like country music, oldies. That's it. And anyway, my brother was all excited because he said there's a new radio station and it's called like the Q. I think used to be 97.7. They might have changed it, but it used to be 97.7. I don't know how I remember that. Yeah. And he's like, Anna, they play all of the new music. He's like, have you heard of this? Have you heard of the Backstreet Boys? And I was like, no. And well, you got to remember, my brother is 13 years older than me.
I know.
I was like 7, so maybe 6. I don't know. He's like, have you heard of the Backstreet Boys? And I was like, no. And he's like, oh, we got to hear. This is what everybody's listening to now. Like, this is what everyone listens to. And I was like, okay. And so that was my first introduction into pop music of that caliber. Because I guess technically Selena is like pop.
Yeah,
I think, but like boy bands, and then it was just I don't even know how to describe that. What happened from there?
I will say this: I had an aversion to boy bands just because of the fact that as a kid, before I got into adult music, all the girls that I had crushes on and like they just flocked to them. So it was a hard sell getting me into boy bands just because it's like. So they can sing and they're cute and they can do whatever they want and they go on concerts and they don't have bedtimes and they can just be cool and shit. I don't care. I didn't say shit because I wasn't cursing at that time, but still.
So you were a little salty.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Salty as a little kid. Like I could like I mean, yeah. I don't know. Boy bands, it was everything. And I personally never really got into NSYNC or the Backstreet Boys. I was introduced and I was like, okay, listening to bit, lyrics, whatever, makes sense, music. But then I was like, no, I need to find my own thing. And that's when, actually, I would say I found LFO before I found O-Town.
But wait, who's LFO?
Your face. Well, Matt, LFO is a boy band. Also, well, they fall into the boy band genre, but I always consider them more in the hip hop range of the boy band because there was more rapping. It was more, it was just more rap rather than they weren't about like the choreographed dancing. There was only 3 members, so you have Rich, Brad, Devin. Sadly, Rich and Devin have both passed away, so Brad is the last member of LFO, but he's always like everything he does, he's always honoring Rich and Devin. So it's kind of like they're just always with him, like they're always a part of him to kind of like keep LFO going. But I was LFO. I was LFO. I had the CD. When their second album came out, I was just like, I was just so excited. I was so excited because I don't know. I think it was honestly, I feel like LFO's second album was the first like second album I ever got excited about, if that makes sense. Like because as a kid you don't really think of like, oh, artists make an album and then they make another album. Like you don't have that concept yet that they can like possibly record a second album.
Yeah.
So like when the second album was coming out, I was just like, I was so excited. And I mean that was radio days. Kids, the radio is a harsh place.
Double-sided cassette tapes, CDs. You guys know nothing about that.
Nothing about the radio. Well, the radio and CDs out of the Walkman, where you have to hold it flat. If you jiggle or you move around too much, your CD's gonna skip. So you gotta keep it flat. And I remember I specifically, like, my parents got me a sport one, which was supposedly the sport one. You were supposed to be able to like walk with it. No.
They also don't know about when you're listening to a good album and then it just stops because the batteries died. You need to go to the store and those AAA batteries, which I know about that.
No, batteries. Yeah. That's not even like a thing. Do people even use batteries for stuff anymore? I don't know.
Or remotes, but I think that's also gonna die
That's
soon.
about it. Remotes and like toys for little kids, and that's
Yeah.
everything else is like just charging, just plug it in. But yeah, so I don't know, back then you had to like listen to the radio and like wait and like hope. That's all you could do. All we had back then was hope, pure hope that, hey, maybe they'll play a song that I like and I will go. Well, do you remember when people used to like record songs from the radio like on their phone so they could like make it as their ringtone? You've done it? Okay.
Yeah. And voicemail too.
Oh, I never did that one. I think I did do the recording for the ringtone though.
Yeah.
But you had to wait, right? You had to like wait, like, okay, it's on the radio. Now I can record it and like now I can have this song. But anyway.
I can't wait. I just want to add this as a joke. I can't wait until whatever the 2 generations down from Gen Z is. I can't wait till we become the boomers for them and they start talking shit about how our generation was fucked up because we had hope because of radio. Like we held on to hope because hope is so irrational. But it's like, you guys were just so damaged because you had to wait for songs to come out and we just get it whenever we want to. Because damn, that shit hurts.
That's the same thing with TV too. Like I am always complaining because my stepkids will just rewatch the same episode. Like they'll rewatch the same like 3 episodes of a show for an entire like 5 days straight. Just replaying those. That's not a thing that we could do.
No, it was. Disney movies like Lion King, Toy Story.
Yeah, but you had to physically go put it back in and rewind. You had to rewind it, Matt. You had to at least do some physical work there, okay? And these days it's just a button. You can just keep hitting play and like not. Yeah, there's no struggle. But anyway, so back to LFO. And I want to talk about O-Town, but I'm not going to talk about O-Town because today's not the day to talk about O-Town, but I love O-Town also. And because those were my two. LFO, O-Town. O-Town hit the pop. You know, they were the pop.
Well,
you know.
Well, when we get them, we'll get them. Let's honor LFO because this is their episode.
Well, actually, the LFO story, I don't know if anybody can see, it was like a virtual event concert that I attended over COVID, and it was awesome. It was created by Brad Fischetti of LFO, and he had some special guests that joined in here and there, but mostly he just talked about the story of LFO, how the guys came together, what it was like making music, what it was like writing. I mean, Rich wrote a lot of the songs. That's the difference. That's another difference with LFO is that, and actually, I want to say Rich wrote all the songs. Don't quote me on that, but I'm like 99% sure that he did, because I know for a fact that Rich helped write songs for other artists.
Yeah.
Like O-Town. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, and a lot of the boy bands did not do that. Like the Backstreet Boys didn't write their songs in their first album, you know, and not to their like not their fault, you know. It's just how it was. Like there was just so much control over boy bands back then. Like that was part of the problems that they were experiencing, that they didn't have any freedom really. Yeah. So a lot of mental health topics that we could talk about with that. And I'm hoping that we can talk about it in our interview with Brad Fischetti.
Hey.
Yes. We are very excited for this.
Anna's been very, very, very excited for this moment to come.
That's an understatement, Matt. That's where I can anybody that knows me knows the understatement of that, as I have always loved LFO. And honestly, before I saw the LFO story, I was already still listening to LFO. I'm not gonna lie to anybody about that. I listen to them like probably once a week at the least. Not always the same album, because I really, really, really like the second album, but I also really like the first album. So I don't know. I don't know, just throw a song into my playlist every once in a while and go with it. Is there any like bands or artists that you still listen to, Matt, that you've like consistently listened to over the years of your life since child?
I still listen to the same things that I used to listen to when I was younger. So nothing.
The Chipmunks.
Oh, because after I figured out, like, oh yeah, I just pitched the music, I just pitched the artist that I started to listen to. 50 Cent in the Club is different when you hear it in the tone of like Alvin, Theodore, and Simon, you know?
Yeah, you know what? I honestly didn't really realize that either, because the Chipmunks recordings are so old. Like, I didn't think that they had that capability. So I thought it was like someone just making that voice and singing that way. But then when the newer Chipmunks movie came out with Jesse McCartney,
Yeah.
I was like, I know for a fact Jesse McCartney doesn't sing like a chipmunk. So I'm like, they did something to his voice.
But yeah, I think generally everybody. So Destiny's Child, they don't exist anymore. So Beyonce to some extent, Eminem, 50 Cent doesn't really put out music anymore. So there's that. Jay-Z, but he hasn't really put out anything. It's nothing really. But it's time for our special guest.
All right. So we are here with Brad Fischetti of LFO. So welcome, Brad. Welcome to Your Therapist Playlist. Matt and I we are pretty excited to have you. I know I'm ecstatic. But so how is everything going right now? You're just on tour or on tour right now?
Yeah, so I've been a part of this Pop 2000 tour, and it's not like a tour like the traditional tour where you get in a bus and you go for a month. This is the kind of tour that you go out for weekends and then go home and fly out for a weekend and then come home. So, but yeah, we just got back with it in July and we're a couple weekends into it, and so far so good.
That's a pretty cool concept, because then that way you guys can be with your families. Because I was wondering, because I know you mentioned your kids earlier when we spoke, so you're able to go home, be with your family throughout the week, and then do it on the weekends. And is that new to you, or is it something you've done before with past tours?
No, that's a new concept in my world. But for all of us, there's a few reasons for it. One, yeah, several of us have families, but also, unless you are an artist that is like currently very hot, it's hard to book a good show on a Monday and a Tuesday and a Wednesday.
Yeah.
So your best bet is to go out and play Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then come home. So it works out great for us. A few of the guys have families to get home to, and certainly for me, getting home with the 5 kids and the wifey, and I do church work as well. So I'm not really in a place in my life where I can just leave for 2 months at a time.
I feel like that's a nice transition to have as an artist who has had a career as long as yours, and now can have the time to create certain, I guess, structures that, one, keep them kind of performing and entertaining in the way that they're used to and enjoy and love. And at the same time, helps to create a balance where they can kind of live a personal life and have people that they want to tend to be there with and often spend times with. So it sounds like it's kind of the best of both worlds for you.
For me, it is, for sure. The way that it's set up now is a really sort of special way for me. And yeah, I'm real thankful for the opportunity.
What was it like on the tours before, where you're just gone for, what was like the longest time you were away on a tour?
I don't remember. A couple months probably. But back then it didn't really matter. You wanted to stay out as long as you could. And really, if I could bring my family, I would still do it. I love being in a different city every day, and I love the grind of traveling. So I enjoy that very much. But like you said, it's kind of the best of both worlds. Gives you a chance to actually. My therapist said that to me. She said, "This sounds like it's great for you because you get a chance to go out and do what you do, like what brings you something that's special to you and brings you a lot of joy, and still maintain your regular life." Yeah, and she was right about that.
That's just one of the things I've thought of with the tour, like being on the types of tours that you were in the past. Like, is it even possible to maintain any type of normal life? Like maintaining your connections with your family and your friends? And
these days I would say it's probably much easier because we have FaceTime and we have Zoom and we have cell phones and texting and Facebook and all that stuff, right? Back then it was much different. he had cell phones, but not necessarily texting yet. So yeah, I would say it's very difficult for somebody to maintain a strong family foundation if they're constantly away from their family, you know? So this kind of touring works really well for me, and I've enjoyed it a lot.
What would you say are some of the things you do now to enact self-care as an artist currently? Because I know that, well, I don't know. That's why I'm asking. I can think about what it was like not having some of the modern affordances that we have now when it comes to FaceTime, social media to interact with family, friends, just to stay kind of grounded and in touch with everybody. Whereas back then, there were less affordances, and as a result, maybe more work demands or more pressure to just keep on the grind.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately your question is about self-care between then and now, right? I mean, that's I was never. You mentioned like having family and friends to talk to. I'm by nature I'm an introvert, right? And I understand that an introvert is not necessarily what people think an introvert is, but an introvert gains their energy from being alone, right? Whereas an extrovert gets their energy from being around people. Being around lots of people drains my energy, you know? So I need that time alone to just sort of recharge. And so the road does offer you that, because there is, you know, I was telling my wife just yesterday, there's so much time during the show day where I am alone, you know, just because there's a lot of waiting, there's a lot of driving, right? So, but I think back then I didn't really have any concept of mental health. And certainly 20 years ago, there was a stigma around anybody who needed a counselor or therapist, right? These days, it's becoming more normal, more accepted, right? We spend a lot of time on our physical health, and too oftentimes we neglect our mental health. And I certainly did that. And I didn't really have somebody that I could really just, who was maybe around me, who would say, "Hey, dude, no, not a good idea," you know, or somebody to bounce ideas off of. So the biggest difference is just being aware of the importance of mental health, and also being aware of capturing the moments. I did a pretty good job of that back in the day, but you know, these days I think I'm more conscious of just, you know, driving through the middle of nowhere in Iowa, and just, you know, like, wow. You know, just experiencing awe, which is something that, you know, my bandmate Devin Lima was excellent at, always experiencing awe. And I think that can do a lot for a person's psyche. So yeah, you know, self-care. I was never the guy that was out partying, so that really wasn't an issue for me. You know, I always did my best. I worked out. I ate really good. Yeah, that's it.
I like your answer just because I feel like as mental health becomes destigmatized, I've noticed that there are times that people become stuck. I heard this really cool analogy that I've been using a lot in my work, how we can easily create a goal that we want to work towards, but we don't often think about, or we lose sight of, there are steps we need to take to get to that goal. And we more so become so distraught over not knowing the steps versus realizing we can create the steps. So even in what you're saying, while it wasn't something that was on your mind that you were very conscious of, you were doing things to take care of yourself. So eating well, working out, trying your best to just live in the moment and experience awe. I like hearing that because I feel like when we as clinicians sometimes talk about being present, it's more so about like grounding in the traditional sense of, okay, let me use my senses, let me put my hands on stuff so I can feel connected, versus just looking around and going, wow, this is where I'm at in life. And for better or for worse, it's cool just to say, I am here in this moment.
Amen to that.
Mindfulness, I think a lot of people don't realize it's something that they can get better at over time too. Mm-hmm. You know, like it takes a little practice.
Self-care?
Yeah, self-care. That's what we call mindfulness. Basically everything you described, like, you know, just taking in your surroundings and just being present in the moment. We call it like being mindful.
Yeah.
And when we teach our clients about mindfulness and we talk about it, it's always that, you know, when you're practicing mindfulness, you're going to have other thoughts that are coming in. You're going to start thinking about like, what am I going to make the kids for dinner? You know, what am I going to do tomorrow? What do I need to do next? What's work going to be like? Like those thoughts are going to come. Like they're not going to just shut off, but you can get to the point where you kind of acknowledge them and just like let them flow through you, and you bring yourself back to that moment, and you're like you said, like just enjoying Iowa. Just, you would bring yourself back to that, like, wait, no, I'm in a beautiful place. Or for you, just being like, wow, I'm doing what I love, wow, I'm happy, like I'm just experiencing life.
Yeah, I felt that way on a trip to Iowa, which was like the beginning of 2020. But I remember just driving. It was winter time, and Iowa was just so wide open. It's really beautiful. I remember just being like, I felt like really happy, like really peaceful. I often think that I'd love to just move someplace where it was just a lot of space. But I also know that change of scenery isn't necessarily always the answer to fixing the way one feels. You know what I mean? Because you can be depressed in Iowa as you can be depressed in New York City.
Oh yeah, definitely understand that one. I just got back from Ireland. I was in Ireland for 2 weeks, basically just road tripping it.
Yeah.
It was our honeymoon for my husband and I, delayed because of COVID. So we did our honeymoon, and there was a lot of those wow moments. Just just like pull over the car, just pull the car over, and just pulling off to the side and just getting out of the car and just standing there and just looking at the surroundings and just trying to take it in. But it's exactly like you said, though. At the end of the day, it's like, I know when I got home, like any problems that I had before I left, they're still going to be there. It doesn't.
Yeah, but you were able to enjoy. You were able to be present in the moment and enjoy the trip. And then you just started a new job too, right?
I started an internship because I'm working on my second master's. So this is my second day of my internship at McHenry High School.
Yeah, school district. Remember you talking about that? Yeah, that's cool.
It's fun. School counseling is fun.
I just want to say to all the listeners who are huge fans of LFO, you have a right to be jealous that Brad has this intimate memory and information about Anna, and you should be a little bit jealous, but at the same time, just know that this is why we decided to do this interview, to help soothe your tendencies.
Well, Anna she had bought a ticket for the live stream concert that I did, and part of that ticket, she had the VIP meet and greet. So that's how we had a chance to talk, and I learned about her work and this podcast, and more importantly, just really the important work that she was doing, and also getting ready to embark on with the schoolwork. So that's pretty exciting.
So when you find yourself on tour or creating new music, what are things that you look for that help to ground you, that I guess create those moments for you?
You ask some. Your questions are like multifaceted, every single one of them.
It's the therapist in me. I can't help it.
You can't ask just one question, Matt.
No.
So you're asking because you're in one way you're asking about being grounded, but then you're asking about experiencing awe. So it's interesting to consider like seeing awe and being grounded, But I think for me, it probably starts with prayer as a way for me to really keep myself grounded. Actually, this past weekend, I was having some trouble focusing during the show. So first show. So the second show, I actually prayed as I was playing, if you can believe that. Right. So I pulled out my rosary ring, and I had it on my finger during Summer Girls. And I was trying to because Summer Girls I know with just via muscle memory or brain memory, I don't have to think about it. And I was always the one that would remember the words. Like Rich would forget the words a lot, but I always remember them. But for some reason lately, my mind goes into other places, and then I start thinking about the words. And when you do that with a song like Summer Girls, there's no way you're gonna figure out where you're at. So I was like, well, maybe I just prayed as I'm rapping, it'll just come out. And so it worked out. But yeah, so for me, being grounded means having gratitude and thanksgiving for the blessings that have been bestowed upon me. So that's the first place I have to go. And also remembering what your mission is. My mission with anything related to LFO is to honor Rich in honor of Devin, my bandmates who both passed away, nurture the legacy, and then also bring people back to a time when things were just a little bit more simple. So for that hour, 2 hours, whatever it might be, they might feel better than they did before they walked into the room, you know? Remembering old times and feeling nostalgic and having fun with their friends. And so for me, it's very important to be aware of what your mission is. So that's where it's at for me. And then also, I find I do better in most things when I'm exercising as well, right? So if I'm hitting the gym pretty consistently, it's very good for my brain. It's good for my body as well, but it's very good for my brain. So yeah, prayer, mission, and exercise. And then probably a diet would be the next. That's not something I was really good at that in my 20s. In my 40s, it's like sort of my weakness, but I jump in and out, you know.
I would say he just hit kind of like the 3 areas of self-care, because I've had clients in the past where I've had them come up with a self-care weekly plan, and I'm always like, okay, come up with something for your body, come up with something for your mind, come up with something for like your soul, like spiritually. So you're just doing that naturally.
Yeah,
You just
there's a cartoon that's pretty cool, and it's like a guy at the doctor's office complaining about he feels sick. And the doctor, I don't know if he asked him the questions or gave him the advice. He's like, well, or maybe his prescription was, okay, I want you to meditate, walk, eat, sleep, like all the things that you should normally do to feel good. You know, and I think a lot of the physical ailments we have are caused by our mental issues, for lack of a better term. I'm not saying it's psychosomatic. I'm saying that when you stress the body and you stress the mind, the body can therefore be stressed. And if you're not doing anything to release that, or if what you're doing exacerbates it, like if you're going to drink when you feel stressed out, we might chill you for a little while, but the next morning, you know, problems may ensue. And so it's just kind of a vicious cycle. And I really look around and I'm really saddened by what I see, and not only like in people who have established lives, but like in the destitute, you know, people who, you know, the other day I was looking at some homeless people and they were camped out under a bridge in Texas. And I'm like thinking like each one of them at one time was probably a vibrant child, you know, like where did it all go wrong? And typically it's drugs that really sets people into the wrong direction. But it's just, you know, I think like your work is just so important because there's just such an epidemic of sadness and depression and mental health issues. And I think we've just gotten ourselves just way too busy. There's just too much. Like, I want to go back to like Little House on the Prairie days. You know what I mean? It's like where it's like you just had time, you had space, you enjoyed your family. Obviously, you had to go find your food, which wasn't necessarily a convenience, but I wish there was a middle ground, you know, between like the modern conveniences of having indoor plumbing and antibiotics and food on the shelf, but still being able to just enjoy being without distractions and enjoy nature, enjoy your family. So.
Isn't that's what I was gonna say, that's a little bit about what your new song is about, right? The digital age. At least that was my interpretation.
Yeah, that song there's an artist named Fangs who's put out the song called Digital Age, and he asked me if I would do a guest rap on it. And so when I heard it, I was like, this sounds like something I would write as far as lyrically, because he took the hook from Paula Cole's big hit, I Don't Want to Wait for This Life to Be Over, you know? And he wrote all about kind of like being in the moment. So when I got a chance to do my rap, I was like, yeah, I got this. Like, you know, I tried to, you know, play it on words a bit, but basically, you know, what I was saying was put away Facebook, put away Instagram, and, you know, get your head back into the clouds, you know, experience some awe, return to God, and focus on what's important. I didn't use those words, but that was the premise of it.
I wanted to go back to what you were saying about the nostalgia of the shows that you put on. You know, the work that you do, that artists do, Matt and I feel it's just as important as what we do. Like, you bring joy and happiness to people. and it can't be measured. Especially Matt and I definitely feel this way because we just love music so much. It has so much meaning for us. But when I went to the Pop 2000 tour the first time, it was like chilling for me. On so many different levels because people are experiencing the joy and the nostalgia, remembering, easier times. But for me, one thing about it was that I got to see artists that I never would have, I never could have afforded before as a kid. To see you, well, yeah, to even be speaking to you right now as an 8-year-old, I would have just told you that's impossible. That's beyond impossible. That's just not. I would never even be able to see you in concert. That would never happen. And so you and the other artists like O-Town going back out there and doing this tour now, you're giving a lot of people opportunities to see you guys that never ever got those as a kid.
You bring up a good point, and that is like this intangible goodness in what we're doing. And I try to explain that to my wife too. It's hard because she hasn't had a chance to come out and experience it. But in particular for my set, because, we do a section in the middle of it where, we honor Rich and Devin and talk about them and have a moment of silence. And after the show, it's like the fans are so gracious. They're so kind. They're saying things like what you said, like, oh, I didn't get a chance to see you guys. Or they might say, I met Rich one time at a Walgreens, or I just lost my dad. I lost my best friend. I know how you're feeling. And so it's like, it's like we're like doing so much good. Like, again, on a micro level, right? If all of us could take big issues and do something about them on a micro level, we can affect major change, right? But right there at that moment, we're doing like the most good that we can do. And it's working. Like, people are happy. People are sharing stories. People are giving thanks, right? They're going back to simpler times. I mean, it's something that's hard to quantify, but there's just no doubt that, for me, I feel like it's a way to bring a little bit of the peace that I get from my relationship with God into a place where you normally wouldn't talk about stuff like that, right? And again, I don't get up on the stage and preach, but I think just spreading goodness and love is in a way evangelizing, So you're right. It's been a really beautiful experience. It's a very emotional experience for me, obviously, with having lost both my bandmates. And typically, the first or second show of each tour, I wound up leaving the stage like just melting down tears, But this past weekend, before the show, the O-Town guys were getting ready to pray. We were all in the same room. And right before they're going on, like, hey, pray with us. I'm like, yeah, of course. So we're all together, we're praying. And then afterwards, they just kind of looked at each other and they kind of smiled and laughed and did like handshakes and fist bumps, like all these like routines that they do. And the interaction, that joy that they had with each other, that sent me into tears. Like, I was like, that's something that I miss so much with Rich and Devin. It's just like being able to look at each other and know what the other one's thinking, and just, sharing the stage with each other and experiencing those things together, So in one way, it was beautiful to see it, but it was hard as well, So there's just a whole lot of emotions going on out there for the fans, for me. And I do believe it's something what we're doing there is good. And I'm really thankful to be a part of it.
I think I don't know. Not everyone uses the talents that they have for good, right? To help people and to bring joy. So the fact that you've chosen to do that with your career, I mean, that's amazing in itself. Like you said, those like small scale things. I mean,
yeah, I had the benefit of having lived almost a half a century at this point, and having, unfortunately, had to go through some really difficult times. Like, I really want people to be able to get through life without hitting those like really down deep rock bottom type things. And I just wish they could just have a life that's a little bit less trauma filled. And so for me, it's like, having experienced what I've experienced, like, you have to sort of take all that stuff and make something good of it, right? Either that or just cower in the corner.
Yeah.
So I've learned, and I feel like I have a pretty good concept of what it means to make good choices and do good things. And it's a great honor, honestly, to be able to go out there and just do good things. It's real special, and I'm really thankful.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, people experience trauma throughout their life. It's about still having hope. And I don't like Matt and I were talking about this.
I made a statement about how, like, as an adult, we realize hope is irrational. But no, now when we were in the 90s and early 2000s, we made hope happen.
Yeah, we need like more. The digital age has affected this because there's just so much everything you want, like you get it immediately. Like you don't have to wait anymore. You don't have to like have as much hope, right? You don't have to. You can just get it. We were talking about hope on a small scale of like hoping that your favorite song comes on the radio, because I used to I really liked second album, Life is Good, and I used to get so excited when any song from that album would come on the radio. But it was that's how we started the conversation, because I was like, all you had was your hope, like your hope that your favorite song is going to come on. Like there was nothing you could do to make it happen. You just wished. And then it happens, and it's like amazing, and you're trying to record it. You're trying to like, I want to hold on to this. And that's kind of lost. It's lost a little bit these days, I'd say.
Yeah.
Well, for sure. Definitely immediate gratification. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a good thing at all. Personally, I'm just not a fan of where we're going, the direction that we're headed. But I don't have a solution for that. It's a whole other podcast, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it starts with the kids. Trying to teach patience. Actually, that's kind of the main thing. I don't know. I have 4 stepkids myself, and it's, I was telling Matt how, and I don't know if your kids do this too, but now that we have streaming, it's like they'll watch the same episode of the same show like over and over again. So I'm talking about, it'd be like 3 days in a row where they're cycling between the same maybe 5 episodes of like the Clone Wars. And it's just over and over again. And also, I don't want to get super deep into this, but I also think like anxiety comes into play. Like it's easier to be anxious these days because it's easier to avoid. So like for a kid, and I know this with my stepkids, it's like something new is anxiety provoking. So a new show, we don't really want to watch a new show. We know Clone Wars. And we know these specific episodes of Clone Wars. So we're just going to keep watching them because that's safe,
Wow, you really took it someplace, didn't you?
I did. I told you, we told you this is going to be like a session. This is how we do sessions. This is how I do sessions.
I think you need a session to work through that one.
Yeah, probably.
I have a question for you, Brad. What was your song that you just couldn't wait to hear on the radio when you were younger?
I was thinking about that when you guys were talking about that. I remember listening to like Casey Kasem's Top 40 on the radio, and he'd count them down. I think back then, I'm trying to think, but like when Bon Jovi was big, like hearing some Bon Jovi on the radio or Guns N' Roses. Yeah, that's the first thing that comes to my mind is like when Bon Jovi was in the top 10, and their songs were on the radio, and you listen and go, I wonder if Bon Jovi is still number 1 or something like that.
I feel like when you're able to really find that song that resonates with you, it like captures a nice screenshot of what adolescence or childhood was like. I think as you were reflecting, I was thinking about what that song was for me. I really specifically remember Jagged Edges Where the Party At with Nelly, because that song was just so fun. It was a bop, as the kids say. And it's just like, yeah, I can't wait to listen to this. It was just so fun.
Yeah. No, I remember those kind of feelings as well. My favorite Jagged Edge song is Let's Get Married. It's very romantic.
Mm-hmm.
Meet me at the altar in your white dress. We ain't getting no younger. We might as well do it. What woman wouldn't want to get married when she hears that?
I feel like that is the wedding song for most weddings. I feel like from 2010 till 19 might even still be the case today.
Oh my gosh. No, I do love the song. I laugh at that lyric, but I do love the song. But yeah, I mean, like you're saying, like back in the day when you just sit by the radio and wonder what song was coming on next, there's a whole different time. These days, you got Spotify and you can listen to any song ever recorded anytime you want. That's one aspect of technology that I really do like, is being able to listen to my music without carrying my Walkman around, you know?
Even though it still exists, I miss often shuffling my music, getting exposed to songs I know I like. But then because I used to just have like a whole bunch of albums on like my iPod, just getting exposed to like that newer song that I haven't listened to the full album yet and going like, oh, this is really good. I need to go back and check out the whole album. Really enjoy it so much.
Yeah.
I feel like whole album listening is like kind of rare now because it's because of like Spotify. You can just pick the song that you want to hear and then that's it. You kind of neglect the rest of the album.
Yeah, and a lot of artists aren't really putting traditional albums out anymore. It's a lot of it is just the constant delivery of assets. So it's like, here's a single, here's an EP, here's the album, here's this, here's that. So it's an interesting time in music for sure. But as much as I don't like immediate gratification, I do enjoy being able to immediately listen to any song I feel like listening to.
What is Well, okay, I don't know if this is a weird question, but are there any songs that you've recorded that you've listened to like more than the others? Any one of the songs that has the most meaning for you?
I don't listen to a lot of LFO songs. Yeah, I have my favorites. You know, Baby Be Mine is my favorite.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's as far as like stuff that I've recorded. You know, Devin and I did a side project called The Exiles. We put out a little Christmas EP, a hip hop project. So I enjoy listening to that. There's a few songs that we recorded that we never released. I like listening to that. As far as stuff that I've done, the song that I wrote for him, "Ode to Harold," I used to listen to that constantly, especially when we were mixing it, because we had this like 5-minute long orchestration. You know, just like the whole point of that orchestration was to take him to a different place and close his eyes, forget about his pain, and just experience the beauty and all the music. You know?
I mean, I think that's about as meaningful as you can get with a song, you know, specifically like I mean, and it makes sense. I think that those songs mean a little bit more to you than maybe the other LFO songs because they were. And I don't know. This could be like a misperception or something that a lot of like the boy band stuff, like all of it was kind of like controlled. Was that the case for LFO? Like you guys?
No, we were fortunate that Summer Girls is a song that we created. So the record label gave us a little more flexibility to have stuff that we would create on the album. First album, there was a bunch of stuff that was stuff they wanted us to do, you know? And so we just did it. Second album was mostly stuff that we wanted to do. So in that case, we were fortunate that we weren't just recording random songs that people wrote that the label said you had to record. You know? We did some of that in the first album for sure, though.
I always preferred the second album. Or I guess I still do. But I think I heard you say in an interview too that like what the singles were kind of decided for you guys.
Yeah, we had no say in that. But that was, in my opinion, it was a mistake made with the first album. You know, Summer Girls hit was huge, Grown to Be was huge. And for us, we thought the next single should be West Side Story because that fit that feeling. And we were just a crowd favorite, but they wanted to like go into the typical boy band routine of 2 up tempos or mid tempos and then the ballad. We weren't the kind of group that we should be singing ballads. That wasn't our thing. We released "I Don't Want to Kiss You Goodnight," which was a beautiful song. You know, I do listen to that sometimes because I love Devin's ad libs on it. You know, his ad libs on the song "Forever" are definitely my favorite. It's just like amazing. So "Kiss You Goodnight" came out. It did okay, but it wasn't what the other ones were, and that was it. And the end of the album cycle, you know.
Yeah, West Side Story was. I think that was my favorite song. Like initially, I mean I watched the movie because of it. Like I was so curious. I wanted to like what is West Side Story, and it's like one of my favorite musicals now. But you're right. Like any song with, I mean Devin, his voice is amazing. I mean, I love it. I love listening to him sing.
I did a solo record on him through my record label called Devin Lima and the Cadbury Diesel. And I listened to that Yeah, fairly often. And he's got a song called "Can't Be Denied," and it almost makes me almost like it's prophetic. You should go listen to it. I want to just play a little bit in my ear real quick so I can just think about it. Hold on.
We all raise a light now, even if you are the quintessential night owl. Deep inside, we all shine on. Why wait to decompose a coal mine? Right now you can become eternal sunshine. Turn yourself into a dime. On your knees, pretty please. You will cry as she speaks. When love rules your mind, and you can't be denied.
He's like, he's got the line. We're all razor light now, and basically he's saying like you have the ability to be light, to be a diamond. You know what I mean? And so I listen to that song pretty often. That whole album was really. I'm not saying it because I was the executive producer, but it was just a beautiful album. Really, really good pop record.
Is that album on Spotify?
Yeah.
And check it out.
I knew you were going to say that.
Of course I'm going to check it out. I love his voice. I mean, Rich, I think, like you were saying earlier, his rap skills, like, because I always thought of LFO as more kind of like in the hip hop genre rather than
that's how we started. We were a rap group, and then we kind of realized that we'd have to do some singing if we wanted to break into the scene, But Rich really was one of the greatest rappers ever. He could freestyle like nobody I ever saw. I do believe if you freestyle with Biggie would respect him. I'm not saying Rich would beat him, but Biggie would respect him, sure, no doubt. Just talented dude. Both these guys, really talented men. Great songwriters and performers and singers, rappers. It's just a great tragedy. And that's what the story is. The whole story is essentially a tragedy. But like I said before, it's I can't really come up with something better than the cliche, like lemonade out of lemons. And there's probably a better way to articulate that. But at some point, you just decide: do you just sort of let it die, or do you do what you can to nurture the legacy? And of course, if the fans were like, no, this is ridiculous, you shouldn't be doing it, well, then you say, well, you tried. But like you said, the fans have been amazing. It's just very humbling to me. So it's what I call it, an unfortunate honor. Same thing I tell a family if I help them with their music for a funeral at the church or help something like that, and they're like so thankful, and it's like, well, I want to say it's my honor, but it's really my unfortunate honor. I wish I didn't have to. I wish I didn't have to stand on the stage with Rich and Devin's shelter with Adidas hanging from a mic stand instead of them wearing those Adidas next to me.
Yeah, I think you've been doing just an amazing job honoring them with everything you're doing. Everything you've done, it seems so intentional. Like you're like it's I don't know, like I think you help people feel them, like feel them still in your music and what you're doing, and it's amazing that you're able to do that.
Well, I appreciate that. It is very intentional, for sure. And it's very serious to me. Like, we have fun, but it's very important to me to make sure that in every show I remind the people who they were, and then also that I remind the people that God exists and He loves them. That's the spiritual journey is a whole different ball game, and I certainly respect the fact that it's different for everybody because it was different for me. But when I look back at my life, I can see people who I believe God put in my path to try to tell me that. I don't think I really was ready for it when I was 20 or 22. So I want to be somebody who plants a seed, and hope that one day that seed bears fruit. So it's a great privilege to do what I do, and I often reflect on my current state of affairs. And this is a really interesting life, and God really has blessed me because, at some point you got to for me, I had to just give up trying to be the highest authority in my life and be vulnerable enough to realize that there's a God. And so I think ever since then, as long as I stay close to that and remember that, it's really helped me to sort of find my way. Again, I'm just really, really thankful for the position I'm in today.
Just like hearing you talk, like all I can think about is how amazing it is that you have found faith and maintain it. And like you said, you're not putting yourself as you said, like the highest authority to have gone from someone who was selling out shows and had people screaming for you, you know, where it's almost like you're being placed in that position where it's like you could have been a raging narcissist, you know, and maybe you were when it was going on, you know, but
I never was that. I never took it as real life, you know. Like I appreciated it, but I never took it as like somebody coming up to you screaming and crying saying I love you. It's like, okay, you don't you don't really know me, you know what I mean? But I appreciate that. And so I was never one that necessarily craved the fame. So when it was over, it wasn't that hard for me to transition out of it. There was times where it's like you go to a show at a place where you used to play shows, you know, like, oh, this is weird. Like I'm attending this concert now, you know. But I was never one that like felt like I needed the fame, you know. So even today, like when I do stuff, it's like wow, it's an odd experience, you know, to be standing at the end of a line of people waiting to say hello to you. You know, it's like, really? Just come to church on Sunday. You can say hi many times. But it's a great honor. Honestly, it's very humbling and very touched by people partnering with me on my mission.
It's a good way to look at it.
For the listeners, what are some tips that you can give on how to find what your mission is? I do a lot of value work with the clients that I work with and try to help them kind of understand when it comes to creating a purpose, it's important to find out what your values are. So what are some tips that you would give to, I guess, help them kind of conceptualize, the listeners that is, how to find your own mission?
Yeah, I think for me, the first thing is trying to discern what God's will is, which is not easy. We have to be careful that maybe sometimes we think we know what it is, but it might be just our own thing. So the way that I sort of identify that is like I search my heart and I search my intentions, right? So if your heart's pure and your intentions are clear, then this is a good thing, right? But really, I think it's about intentions. Right? You want your life's mission to be X, Y, Z. Okay, well, what are your intentions? Why? You know, and that I find that to be very helpful. But we don't always succeed right away with these types of things. But the fact that you're at least being intentional about trying to discern, well, what is my mission? What do I want to get out of this life? What do I want to provide? What's my legacy going to be? Those are important questions to ask. And I think a lot of folks are probably just kind of lost, you know? And then other folks like my age or your age, I can see where you can get very cynical, you know, where, you know, it's like life beats you down for a while. And some people look at a child and like, oh my gosh, they have so much life ahead of them. And then other people look at it and go, they have no idea what's coming at them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's kind of a scary thing, you know. And I vacillate between both of them. There's times where I'm, you know, feeling really, wow, this is great. And there's other times where I'm just like, wow, this life, maybe this place is hell, you know? So
I was wondering if you wouldn't mind giving us
That was my job.
Oh, come on, Matt.
I remembered.
Yeah. All right. You go.
Well, no, I'll save that question for you because now I have another question. Top 5 rappers.
Top 5 rappers meaning their skill or who I enjoy listening to?
Whatever you want to give the answer to.
All right. Let me just pull up my rap playlist just so I don't forget somebody. Let's see. Chuck D, definitely. Biggie. You know who I really enjoyed was Mace.
I was just rapping the Mace verse earlier.
Yeah, he was one of my favorites. And it's hard because he got some really interesting cats. You know, like as far as like some ridiculous skill goes, you look at like Bone Thugs and Harmony.
Okay.
Yeah.
the stuff that they can do is like I feel like if I practice any rap, I can probably do it. But when I listen to their stuff, like as much as I want to say, yeah, I can figure it out, and I've done like pieces, but it's really just a whole different level of skill that those dudes have. You know, actually, I'm going to get a chance to play a show with them at the end of the month, which is interesting. Yeah.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah,
Wow.
pretty cool. I was pretty excited about that. So that's not a rapper, but
It's your list. Whatever works, works.
yeah. Yeah. I'm not pausing because I can't think of anybody. I'm pausing because there's just so much rap that I like, you know. I really think NF is special. I really do. I really dig him as a rapper. You know, I really enjoyed Puffy, even though people make, oh, he's Puffy, but I enjoyed him. I thought what he did was good. Oh, hold on. The Locks. Yeah.
Did you happen to watch the verses? They started it last year when we were all on lockdown. Like it would be like an artist or a group, and they would compete back to back with hits to see kind of like I guess a cipher, like who could win the crowd, the audience over the most. I saw clips, and Jada Kiss, he made a very, very good argument for why you should never underestimate him.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Again, like I'm not talking about content because a lot of these guys have content that I just don't think is good for one's soul, one's brain. Talk about mental health. It's like, some stuff you listen to, you might as well be smoking crack. You know what I mean? Because it's just not good for your brain, whether it's listening to music or watching pornography or reading books that just really inappropriate and immoral. I mean, but I love the skill of some of these guys.
Yeah.
I wish like the content could be a little bit more easy on the brain, but yeah, the Locks, I really loved the Locks, Biggie, and that Mace, and Public Enemy, Chuck D.
Yeah. I think that was another reason why their win was so big, because they were going against another group who had more mainstream success. Dipset never really was like a huge fan of theirs, but I felt like a lot of the content didn't really have as much like depth or substance. So it was good just seeing like such an underrated group in some capacities get so much acclaim that night. It was really cool.
Oh, that's cool. I'll have to look it up. I'll have to look it up for sure, because I really, really do like those dudes.
All right, Anna, you ready?
I am ready. So I was going to ask if there is a song, or what song really, that you would like to recommend to our listeners. Anything, and it can be anything. It can be a song that you're just like really into right now, or a song that means a lot to you. Just what do you think people should be listening to?
Well, I mean, what they should be listening to is different. That's a whole different question. You know what I mean? So, what I've been listening to a lot lately, it's kind of funny, is this guy named Ralph Stanley. He died maybe 5 or 6 years ago as a very old man. But he sang basically like Christian bluegrass. He's actually got a couple songs on the Oh Brother Where Art Thou soundtrack. But he's got an album called Shine On that I've been listening to a lot. So I would say let's look up Ralph Stanley, and the album is Shine On. He's got some really just poignant songs, really, really beautiful.
I'm looking them up right now.
I'm thinking about the Oh Brother Where Art Thou. I like bluegrass. I couldn't like name artists, but it's just music that I enjoy listening to.
That soundtrack I love. And I didn't even realize he was on it until I started listening to his other music. But that record he put out in 2005 is really, for me, it's special. Yeah. And then, another artist which actually fits really well into what you guys do to look up would be Daniel Johnston. And younger people might only know him because his song was featured on an Apple commercial a couple of years back. But he was a man who suffered greatly with mental health issues. I mean, I would really encourage you both, we enjoy it, to look up a couple of documentaries about him. I think maybe it's on Netflix. He became kind of a cult following because Kurt Cobain wore a T-shirt of his album cover one time, and then people started discovering him. And he's like, you listen to him and go, okay, what is this? It's not refined at all, but it's beautiful. Like, he's got a song. I have a playlist called The Most Beautiful. It's just stuff that I listened to that is just so beautiful, you know. And he has a song called The Story of an Artist. I'd say start with that one, The Story of an Artist. And just listen to the simplicity of the words, but yet poignant, you know. And he's really an interesting case, and somebody who I believe he was schizophrenic. He really struggled a lot with his mental health. Another artist that I really love that struggled with mental health was Donny Hathaway. You would know him from his probably most famous song is "Where Is the Love," or he's got a Christmas song that's really popular. But he suffered from mental health issues and actually committed suicide. Jumped out of a building. But since you had a therapist, those artists came to my mind. But Daniel Johnston is somebody I think you guys would really enjoy just watching his story and seeing the way that he was handled or mishandled, you know. But just hearing the beauty of what he created was really something special. But
now I really want to look up that documentary. So
yeah, there's probably a few. I think it might be The Devil and Daniel Johnston. Look him up. You'll be. I don't know what you'll be. Maybe you'll be inspired. You, as therapists, you're probably like, "Oh my gosh, I should have done this. I should have done that for him." You know?
Yeah.
But it's really quite special. So.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for the recommendations. Thank you for your time.
Yeah. Where do you live again?
We're in the Chicago area, Chicago, Illinois.
All right, cool. Yeah, we're going to be up in Illinois in October.
Waukegan.
Yeah, Waukegan. That's cool. Well, keep up the important work you guys are doing. I really admire what you're doing there. And I hope the podcast goes well. And thanks for including me.
Thank you.
Much. So, yeah.
God bless you. Peace.
All right. Well, you just saw and listened to an exclusive interview with LFO's Brad
Fischetti.
There we go. All right. Now that we're at the end of our episode, it's time for us to bring back one of our favorite special moments of the podcast. Still, damn.
It's not Friday.
New music Fridays, even though it's not Friday.
Not New Music Friday.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll go first. My recommendation, this happens to be off of Nas's most recent album, King's Disease 2. It is the 9th track, Nobody, featuring Miss Lauryn Hill. The song itself talks about the opposite, actually a little bit of what Brad was talking about on the episode, what it means to find a life outside of the celebrity, outside of the fame, but for them more so dark because they just wish they were nobodies because they've lived their lives in celebrity. They found themselves scrutinized so many times, nobody more than Lauryn Hill, and just wishing like, I want to be a regular person again. I want to be nobody. So yeah, I enjoyed the song. I did not expect Lauryn Hill to even be on the album. So it was good to hear her voice. It was good to hear her rap because I think a lot of times when you see a Lauryn Hill credit on a song, you think she's going to sing. But no, she still got bars and she came at people for coming at her for being late to her performances. But, she did that too. So it's both. It's both, hey, monitor your expectations, fans, and Lauryn, they're paying money. So they going to be pissed. But yeah, I'm not going to get into that.
I have to listen to that song myself. No, I did listen to it, but I got to listen to it again now that you have brought it up again. So I will.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matt, for your recommendation. My recommendation, I'm going to recommend an LFO song because even if Brad said he doesn't really listen to LFO, well, I do. I still listen to LFO. And I'm going to recommend Life is Good featuring MOP, what do you call it? Rap group?
Yep.
Hip hop? I don't know. Yeah. Anyway. Then I just listen to it. Just listen to it. It's a classic. It's just a fun song. It's a fun upbeat song. It goes along with like a lot of the stuff we talked about today. So yeah. I think it's a good recommendation. In that album, that's my favorite album from LFO. So check it out, people. Yeah.
All right. Well, that marks the first episode of season 2. Thank you all for joining us, listening. Hopefully you're able to, 1, enjoy this podcast, 2, share it with friends, 3, check us out on our favorite platforms, whether it be for listening to podcasts, like Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, the rest, etc. And also listening to us on YouTube or even watching us on YouTube, clips and full episodes, all on our channel, Your Therapist Playlist. You can also follow us on social media, YT underscore. Is it YT underscore? What?
Oh no, Matt.
It's been so long.
I think it's YT underscore play on Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah, YT underscore playlist.
There we go. Thank you.
Follow us on Instagram, people. Yeah, you can also just search like Your Therapist Playlist, but YT underscore playlist. We're on Facebook. And also, please remember our sponsor,
Yes.
TBD Coffee. Oh, and did you know they actually put out like an Irish coffee thing? And I thought that was cool because I was in Ireland when I saw they released an Irish coffee.
Maybe they were thinking of you when they did it.
Maybe they were. Very possible. Anyway, remember our sponsor?
15% off if you use the code YTP.
15.
Yeah. See? We did it.
We did it. All right. Follow us, particularly on Instagram. That'd be cool.
So that is our first episode again of season 2. We will see you next time. I know we talked last time about increasing our outputs. We talked about this also during our hiatus. We're going to stick to bi-weekly because one, again, we're therapists that have lives. And as much as we enjoy creating the podcast, I know for me, I want to make sure that I am staying in tip-top shape so that I don't lose my footing or step when it comes to recording and being as energetic as I can be.
So, yeah, what Matt said. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.